Happy Tuesday night, YouTube. Sue Ortiz here with an article that I found. This is a new article that I found. It's an old article, actually. It came out 3/11 of 2013, no less. This was reported in the Japan Times. They will not report this information in the United States. I don't know how I missed this, and I don't know. This is just sad. We got to find out stuff in our backyard, Chicago. This is in our backyard. I'll provide a link. It's long. If anyone has any questions about what's going on at Byron, oh my Lord. I found this through any news. Brace yourself. Pictures by Andrew Borowick. The article is by Dreux Richard, and this is a special to the Japan Times. It's just too hard to read and show the camera. It's madness. So if you want, you can go ahead and turn the video off or whatever, or you can go like this. I don't know. But I just want to impart this information. Of course, I'm going to add my 2 cents. I'm going to try to keep this short. I've got my little timer. We're going to try and do this in 4 videos. So it's an hour's worth of information. This is mainly for people that live in Chicagoland. You know, not the whole rest of the country or the world. Remember, Japan reported this. Japan. Okay? On January 30th, 2012, Byron Nuclear Generating Station lost operability to all its safety-related equipment. At the time, Jim Hazen was the nuclear station operator responsible for the affected reactor. One of 2 at the Exelon-owned nuclear plant in Byron, Illinois. NSOs drive nuclear reactors like pilots fly jet airliners. It's mostly autopilot, except when something goes wrong. Hazen surveyed the control room's instruments and advised taking actions that would trigger the plant's diesel generators, switching the plant to backup power. According to multiple sources familiar with the incident's details, including at least one who was directly involved, this was clearly the proper action to take, but shift manager Ed Bendis rejected that advice. Hazen repeated it. Sources claim he repeated it several times. Bendis didn't relent, and the reactor went without safety equipment for 8 minutes. An eternity in fission time. For 8 minutes, you've raised your middle finger, to the meltdown gods, one reactor operator said, speaking on condition of anonymity. If anything else happened in that window, and it's a safe bet one problem causes another, you're screwed. Without any operable safety equipment or a clear idea of what had caused the accident, operators knew the plant was vulnerable to any number of accident scenarios, ranging from the trivial to the catastrophic. So for 8 minutes, this guy is standing there screaming at his supervisor, "We need to turn this on." The supervisor saying no because, see, it triggers something. In the aftermath of the incident, the technical details didn't bother the plant's reactor operators. It had been an oddball event. The human element, however, was troubling. Following Hazen's advice would have disconnected the reactor from its regular off-site power supply. In a statistics-obsessed nuclear industry where the indicator at a data point triggered by certain adverse conditions is king, and the technical classification of an incident can ruin a manager's career, nobody likes to have a loss of off-site power incident happen on their watch. Least of all Ed Bendis, who had been exposed to some of the worst coercion dished out by Dave Hoots, who held a number of senior leadership positions at Byron through 2009 and is now Exelon's Chief of Internal Affairs. So this guy knows the thing's supposed to go on, but he knows it's going to trip a report that, oh no, we had to put on our backup, so don't do anything for 8 minutes. For 8 minutes. Chicago, DuPage, all Chicagoland, Wisconsin. Your lighters are marking up every time there's a southerly. It's Byron. I saw stuff with my own eyes. This is an old article from Japan. From Japan, okay? From Japan. Japan reported this. Do you understand this? But I digress. Ed Bendis, who had been exposed to some of the worst coercion dished out by Dave Hoots. So now here's a new guy. Dave Hoots, who held a number of senior leadership positions at Byron through 2009, is now Exelon's Chief of Internal Affairs. Okay, so he worked his way up to Chief of Internal Affairs at Exelon. Can you say some serious do-re-mi? Is this guy this insane? If you give him enough money, he doesn't care if he fries everybody here in Chicagoland. Again, DuPage County start getting upset. You guys have a lot of money and some of the best lawyers I've ever seen. St. Charles, I don't know what you're waiting on. Racketeering charges. You'll see it's coming up. A wide range of Byron employees claim that during his tenure at Byron, Hoots established himself as an ascendant manager by smashing operator morale, especially when recalcitrant operators insisted on prioritizing standards over scheduling. "Why would I ever restore morale?" he once reportedly asked a reactor operator. "You work better afraid." So he's telling his employees they work better afraid. During the January 30th incident, operators in the field eventually called the control room to report that a crucial transformer appeared to be on fire. This gave Hazen leverage. He acted to trigger the plant's diesel generators, and just like he'd said it would, the safety equipment came back online, ending the event 8 long minutes after it had begun. Let me repeat that. In 8 minutes, there was a crucial transformer that appeared to be on fire. We had a mini Fukushima here in 2012, and I saw the data charts. I wondered what that spike was. Now I know. And it happened back in 2012. Like I said, this is a long article. This is for people in Chicagoland. I will give you the link. I'm going to read it. And I'm going to put my little 2 cents in as I go. It may be 5 videos. We'll do part 1, part 2, part 3. I'm on vacation, so hey. I got all night. I've been looking for this article. Here it is. My Lord. And for real, a little prayer here real quick after finding out all this. Again, I'm going to repeat this. During the January 30th incident, and yes, I will pull up the data, operators in the field eventually called the control room to report that a crucial transformer appeared to be on fire. This gave Hazen leverage. There had to be an actual fire for the guy that runs the control room to finally convince the supervisor to turn on the generator already. We're having a meltdown. We're throwing middle fingers to the meltdown gods. Because this guy doesn't want it to trip up on his accident report because he's been working under David Hoots, who is now, you know, some big shot at Exelon. I wouldn't want to be him on many levels. Many of the plant's personnel, oops, I'm sorry, I digress. Those 8 minutes symbolize over a decade of abuse, said a plant source, and you can never undo it and it's never forgotten. Do you realize that? 8 minutes? We all could have been fried because of incompetent people. And this is in Chicago. I know I got to keep track of my minutes here. Okay. Many of the plant's personnel believe that abuse contributed to multiple deaths and a rash of severe illnesses. I have some articles if you go further back. I think it says more trouble at Byron. I pulled up these articles. It also included, according to this investigation, chronic neglect of working conditions and employee safety, as well as a raft of verifiable retaliation against the operator's labor union for engaging in legally protected activity. Many of these patterns, including an arrangement surrounding plant employees' medical benefits that appears to meet the criteria of the U.S. racketeering statute, persist. People in Japan know our laws. Go get them. Racketeering. Start with that. Work your way down. Get the magnets up. Byron, don't worry. Plenty of jobs. Tons. And we'll get people over there. Go camping there in Oregon. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of Illinois. Beautiful. And let's fight for it. Oh yeah, and Chicago, we could get fried. There you go. But I digress. Let me try to get through this really quickly. Many of the plant's personnel believe that abuse contributed to multiple deaths and a rash of severe illnesses. It also included, according to this investigation, chronic neglect of working conditions. Again, working with the employee benefits, this meets the criteria of U.S. racketeering statute. Go get them. In the meantime, we'll start getting the concrete ready. The mistreatment matters because sources allege it was often meted out in retaliation for employee safety efforts that though often critical and urgent, could have cut into Exelon's bottom line. This retaliation produces a chilling effect within the plant that makes other employees feel uncomfortable about bringing up their own safety concerns. Though Byron Station has taken internal measures to monitor such chilling effects, sources say these measures have been unreliable and ineffective since at least 2000, when management attempted to persuade the employee responsible for tracking the related statistics to falsify his findings, and then fired him when he refused to cooperate. He stood his ground. He wouldn't falsify the findings, but they fired him and got someone else too. Further government regulation of safety culture falls into a gray area. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is tasked with investigating allegations related to chilling effects, but these allegations are notoriously hard to substantiate. Well, yeah, you have people falsifying stuff, and the bulk of NRC rules about safety culture are equivocal compared to other agency guidelines. The NRC's oversight of Byron Station has been anchored by Senior Resident Inspector Bruce Bartlett for over 7 years. Bartlett's tenure at Byron has coincided with a number of regulatory lapses, including one incident that appears to have been subjected to extensive cover-up and obfuscation within the agency. Bartlett has also fumbled on a critical design flaw at the plant currently under review that is similar to flaws he failed to identify at Michigan's Donald C. Cook Nuclear Generating Station, where his inspectorship ushered in one of the longest site-specific safety-related shutdowns in industry history. Okay, so there's a design flaw at the plant. Oh yeah. They built it in '87. It's 2014. They had plenty of time to fix this. They knew about it. It's similar to the flaws he failed to identify at Michigan's Donald C. Cook Nuclear Generating Station, so you might want to check into that. They're in Michigan, where his inspectorship ushered in one of the longest site-specific safety-related shutdowns in industry history. This is a great article. Again, they had to report it in Japan, not here. NRC resident inspectors are limited to 7-year tours at individual nuclear sites in an attempt to ensure robust inspector objectivity. Bartlett's tenure passed the 7-year mark on Christmas Day 2012, but he has been allowed to stay at Byron pending a transfer to the NRC's regional office, which regulates the plants where he previously served as a resident inspector. Agency sources explain that the 7-year term limit is in itself already an ill-advised compromise. Stricter term limits have been abandoned in the face of recruiting difficulties. No one wants this mess. Multiple agency sources contend that Bartlett's case is illustrative of the resulting risk to inspector objectivity. 7 years is absurdly long, one NRC source said. By that point, you're no longer an NRC asset. You're an Exelon asset wearing an NRC hat. You start referring to problems at an Exelon plant as our problems. We have a problem. That kind of thing. In Bruce's mind, he's not seeing the line between himself and Exelon employees. Several of Byron's operators contend that Bartlett frequently grandstands but has rarely taken substantive action. They point in particular to incidents when management compromised the safety of the control room environment while Bartlett looked on. Nothing to see here. We've been saying it for years. NRC stands for nobody really cares, one reactor operator said. Yet Byron, owned by Exelon, America's leading nuclear utility, has consistently received the highest safety rating given by the Institute of Nuclear Power Operations. It's INOP for short, okay? The industry oversight group whose evaluations make or break managers' careers. Can't you see it's all money, it's all payola? They're clearly not the safest. INPO doesn't publish its ratings either. But plant personnel contend that Byron's INPO #1 streak is the longest in the nation. You hear flagship a lot, one source said. You hear world's safest. These words are a comfort to the 3,753 residents of rural Byron who depend on the plant for continued economic vitality. Byron, you don't need this plant. We want to help you. I want to help you. All of Chicagoland wants to help you. If we switch over these plants to this magnetic generating grid and you guys can help manufacture all these parts, I know where you're situated. You're right by a rail line anyway. You could be doing stuff for the whole country. Lots of money. Let's fix it up. Let's clean it up. I've got to end this video here. Actually, I got, 20 seconds? Yeah. I'm going to end it here. We're going to start again. This is on the paragraph. I'm in the middle of a paragraph, which I didn't want to be, but I wanted to make that point clear. We can fix this. Stand by for part 2. And yes, unless they yank my channel as quick